All right, Lady Ada, what is this?
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Show and Tell. It's your OG host, me, Lady Ada.
We did put our mics on, sorry.
With our mics.
Totally forgot to put our mics on.
Sorry. Were you listening?
Yeah, well.
Okay, we're at Show and Tell. It's me, Lady Ada, now amplified. With me, Mr. Lady Ada, on camera control, but not the sound guy, because don't blame him.
Sound guy's on vacation.
Sound guy's on vacation.
Yeah.
We're going to check in with some folks from around the community. What are they up to? Crafting, making, hacking, coding, soldering, developing, undeveloping, taking shit apart, putting it back together.
That's right.
Come on by. Happy New Year, everybody. Kick off 2025 with some making and learning. Everybody's welcome. Come on to Discord if you need the link. And let's see what people are up to. Who you want to go to first?
First up is Scott and Scott Screen.
Hi, Scott Screen.
Is it time to debug live?
That's what deep dives are for on Fridays.
Yeah. Oh, are you doing a deep dive on Friday?
That's the plan.
Fantastic. So this is deep dive mini version.
Kind of.
Dipping our toes in.
Yeah, speaking of 2025, though, yesterday was the last day for CircuitPython 2025. I just did a blog post with a link to all of the different ones that we got. So thank you to everybody who did CircuitPython 2025. The main thing for me this year is Zephyr. Zephyr is a real-time operating system that is getting large adoption across the industry, and in theory makes it easy to work across lots of different chip families without having to do too much work. What I wanted to show here is that this is actually a Nordic NRF 7002 development kit, which is a board that we do not support currently from CircuitPython.
And what's the main chip on that?
So the main chip is an NRF 5340.
Okay, and it's connected to?
And it's connected to their NRF 7002, which is a Wi-Fi 6 low-power chip. So the development kit should be able to do Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and native USB, because 5340 has native USB. So this is kind of like an airlift, if you think of it that way.
Yeah.
So this is a really good test board for CircuitPython because we want to figure out how to manage all the different firmwares. Like there's 2 cores in the 5340, one of which is used for BLE, and then CircuitPython will be the other one, the application, and then now we'll also have an external chip, the 7002, that'll do Wi-Fi for us too. So if we can make that all work, that would be awesome. The reason I'm showing this is actually tiny USB within Zephyr running, and I can do import GC to see how much memory I have, which is now the remaining memory. So this is it's a half of a meg of memory in the NRF 5340, and we've got about 400K ish free. Some of it is shared. Some of it is set aside to share between the 2 cores, so it's not a reflection of the size of like Zephyr or CircuitPython necessarily.
But this historically would have taken you like a lot of effort to bring up. Not that it doesn't take you effort, but at least now, like when did you start bringing this board up? Like earlier today?
Yeah, I got this today, and so I've got serial over USB working. I actually tried to do the CircuitPy drive. I get a CircuitPy drive, but then it tells me it's read-only, so I got to figure out why it's read-only.
Okay, but that's still like very impressive.
It's not bad.
Yeah, and it like automatically figured out like based on the Zephyr information what flash chip is on the board. So, and I didn't have to write any flash code. I didn't have to configure the flash. I just, when CircuitPython starts it says, hey Zephyr, which flashes are there? Are any of them explicitly for CircuitPython, or is there one that we could use that hasn't been used by anybody else, like an external flash chip? And so that is, it thinks it's working, but
well, you type and things come out, so it's not
well.
working.
So the REPL is, and it's not giving us like if the flash doesn't work, it goes into safe mode. Which you can still do the REPL, but you can't do any like file writing and stuff. So,
well, can you do like import OS and then like list files?
No.
Oh.
I don't have OS on, I guess. Somebody had me do help modules, which lists all of the modules that you have.
Okay.
So we have board. So if we do import board, and then just board or dir board.
Yeah.
my code automatically is generating all of these labels. So if Zephyr says like, hey, there's an Arduino pinout or a Feather pinout, we'll automatically add these sort of things. Hey, there's a button here or a button there or an LED. It automatically populates this.
Okay.
And digital I/O, I think, does actually work too. So, yeah, the basics.
All right.
That's cool.
This Friday, deep dive. If you enjoy dipping your toes in the pool of Zephyr, come on by on Friday at
Come fly a kite.
Like a cool breeze. Okay, cool.
All right. Thanks so much, Scott. And I appreciate that you're showing how we do all this stuff, because CircuitPython has been running. People can download any firmware. There's hundreds of boards. We use GitHub Actions. There's a lot of stuff that happens before it even gets there. But this is neat because this will potentially allow us to support more processors. It'll lower our like hand tweaking maybe off each board, but we'll see.
Yeah, if folks have suggestions for boards that we don't support with CircuitPython right now, but would be cool to, and that Zephyr supports, I'm totally looking for some candidates right now. In fact, I pulled out the Arduino Portenta H7. Turns out I had this. It's got SD-RAM on it, which, as you know, I was trying to get SD-RAM going. Unfortunately, there's some configuration thing where, like, the board definition says that it should use the Zephyr USB stack, and that's conflicting with me saying, no, I don't want the Zephyr USB stack. So there's all sorts of little things like that where, like, I can't just override it. It's like, you can't set this in two places. And it's like, well, that first place I don't actually control.
Yeah.
So I'll probably just turn that check off.
Okay, we'll see you this Friday, and thanks so much for coming by.
2 p.m. Pacific on Friday on the Adafruit streams.
Okay. Thanks, Scott.
Next up, we're going to go to JP.
Hey, guys.
And, JP is in California. JP's safe.
Yes,
but we're also keeping in touch with everyone
that's why he has some
there.
water on his desk.
Yeah, he's ready to go.
I don't know how far this will go, but yeah.
But we have our team, some team members out there. They're all okay so far. Friends of friends are okay, but it's pretty terrible what's happening in California. So Adafruit will see what we can do. It's still not over. It's like you were talking about this in our meeting that we do before this. Like 20% of the fires contained in one area, 13% in another. So we're a little bit far away from saying it's over. How can we rebuild and help? But anyways, I'm glad you're safe, JP. What do you got?
The time of year where we expect the Santa Ana winds, and they got up to 86 mile an hour here in Burbank. And unfortunately, it's also a lot drier than usual here. So the winds keep kicking back up, which is why we're not out of the woods. But anyway, moving on to something else. I'll tell you a little bit of coffee story here, if we have a minute, to explain what's going on with this water. So I love espresso. I love cappuccinos. I love drip coffee. I have a espresso machine that I was running for about 15 years or so that was plumbed into my household water supply, running through some filtration. When I got a new machine this year, first machine in like 15, 18 years, I decided to do one with a tank on it and to buy distilled water and then remineralize it with exactly the minerals I wanted, rather than try to get out of the water whatever the heck was there. So this is kind of the new way to be even more specific and weird about your coffee water. So as a result, I have a really fancy machine that I love, but the one feature it doesn't have is a way of knowing how much water is left in its reservoir without moving the cups off the top of the machine, opening the little lid and peering down in there. So what I'd really love to do is build a gizmo to let me know what my water level is. And the starting point for that, I've decided, is going to be one of these little ultrasonic sensors. So we have these little fairly inexpensive, like $5, $6 ultrasonic sensor boards. This one, I think, is running over UART. I can't remember which mode I have it in right now. And to test things out, I've just got it plugged into a Feather board with a battery. And you can see right now, I'm just measuring when I'm about 2 centimeters away, the LED there is white. Beyond that, for a few centimeters, it's blue. As it goes down, get to green.
So now you're going to know how much water's in the tank.
Yep, blinking on orange, and then a lot of blinking on red when it's like, hey, buddy, you're basically done and you need to replace that. So that's the starting point of this. I'm going to talk about this a little more on the show tomorrow. But then I'm going to move into low power mode and some Adafruit IO stuff so that we can get that info out to a couple different places and make it easy for me to monitor the water level in the machine. So that is my distraction from the collapse of civilization.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the coffee meme where you're like, this is fine, and you're just drinking coffee. So there's a lot of ways to do this. Why didn't you use one of those depth sensors where, what are they? It's like the little white.
Yeah, we have the water dip sensors.
Yeah, why didn't you use that, for instance?
Those are not so great, apparently, some of them. So rather than figure out which one's the best one and have something in my water all the time that I got to clean.
You have to get the water. You have to get the one that's food safe.
Yeah, so it has to be food safe.
Yeah.
And then you also a lot of configuration. So this is, you're just figuring out like
distance to that water, which is consistent with the little tank I'm using. Yeah. So I tried some little time of flight sensors, and they didn't want to work just because it's clear, it's water, it didn't reflect back the way we want.
It gets it's shooting a laser, and the laser is transparent to water. Yeah.
Ultrasonic works because it's it's bats. It's yelling at the water, and then it hears how long it takes for its scream to return, which is kind of poetic and lovely.
And now that you're doing this, you're saying so the water, you're not taking minerals out that you want to keep in. It's going through a different water process and then putting the water you want in a tank.
Yeah, you just buy the big distilled things from the grocery store. I get a 6-packs of them for like $7, these big liter. And then you can either make up your own little mixtures. There's a lot of info about those online. I'm actually using a company called Third Wave Water, who just makes little packets that happen to be one little packet per. Shake it up, it remineralizes it with some magnesium and some chlorides and some sodium. So they have maybe 3 different mixes depending on the type of brew process you're using. So I have one for espresso and one for drip on 2 different machines that I'm using. So that's the level of specificity that the Third Wave coffee has gotten into now, which is really makes a lot of sense if you think about it, because whatever Burbank is pumping into my house may be changing over time, depending on fires and things that are happening and what else. So you don't really know the filtration system you're using exactly what it's pulling out. So starting with distilled and then just putting in what you need is actually scientific.
It's always an unknown. Yeah, it'll always be something, and you're not going to test it every day, every hour.
Right.
And you're not drinking that much water through your coffee either.
Right.
Like 1 liter will last you at least a day.
It does. It does last more than a day.
At the new Adafruit headquarters, downstairs from us, is Gumption Coffee. It's one of the only woman-owned coffee franchises chains in the U.S. And Claire, the co-founder, stopped by Adafruit, and we're doing stuff together, and we're talking about stuff. But I'm going to trade some knowledge about some things for some coffee roasting knowledge, because they get the beans in and they roast them there. So do you roast your own beans?
I did for a while. Yeah, I roasted beans for a few years, and then I had kids and got out of that business. And now I use a subscription service that actually curates roasters from around the country. So I get different stuff every week from different places, which is pretty neat.
Nice. Okay. Well, I'm very interested in this setup. I'll tell you I'm gonna go roast some coffee. Maybe I'll send you.
Fun. Great.
Yeah. Here's the thing. We have a little like outdoor space in our place now. So I'm like, you can do it outside of the house.
Yeah, that's smart.
Like when we were in a 1-bedroom inside Soho with like windows that didn't open, I was like,
no, we only breathe solder fumes there.
Unless you're getting catalytic converters and burning off the excess waste and all that stuff. Yeah.
I lived with a guy who roasted coffee, and it was like, you're like, how can something so good smell so bad?
It's pretty grassy. It smells like fiery hay.
I eventually got used to it, but like, boy, it's a challenge.
Yeah. Most of the process, it doesn't smell like coffee until the end of the process. Like the green at the beginning, it's
All right. Well, still stay safe, JP. We'll be checking in with you and all our folks out there. And so glad that you're safe and back at home right now.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up, we're gonna go to Noe, and then we'll go to Jeff, and then we'll go to CGrover. Noe, what's going on?
Hey, folks. I got 2 things this week. First up, we wanted to do a quick video on the SLA resin snap fit cases that we have in the shop. So I have a handful of them here.
Love them.
Thank you. These are really fun. They no screws needed. They just snap fit, and some of them have these little mounting tabs. And what I really like about them is that because they're so high quality, we can have some details like little labels and of course logos on the back here. And then they come in two different versions. We have the milky white resin and then the clear spray varnish finished resin, which is really
Which
nice.
look great, but they're more expensive.
A little bit more pricey, but if folks want to pay the extra for a nice looking enclosure, you can do that. So this is the Trinky. We have a couple of the USB solar chargers, and I'm working on doing more feathers because a lot of folks love feathers. This is the Feather RP24 USB host. And then we have these little relief tabs so you can use the buttons. And this isn't turned on, but the NeoPixel shines through pretty nicely through it. So that's nice. So just want to make a video on folks for folks if they don't know about it. We have a handful of them. I don't have them here, but with, of course, brick compatible mounts too, like for the feather and the slide switch and a couple of the stemma boards. And then the thing that's rotating is going to be next week's project. It's a bit of an IKEA hack. So they have a, I don't want to say the word, but it's like a swivel, swivel Susan.
Yeah.
I guess we call it. I kind of 3D printed the top, but I can swap that out. So this is the IKEA swivel.
What is it usually used for?
You know, apples and fruit
Putting
and stuff.
things on it.
Food,
It's
yeah,
under the
food.
kitchen. It's under the kitchen eatery.
For storage, like it's in a drawer because then you can rotate through the drawer without having to like try to reach around it.
Yeah, like spices. Let's say you have a bunch of spices and you want to rotate around it. So that's normally what they're for. But I took the mechanism and I added a stepper motor, and I'm using the TMC 2209. So we can make something for getting nice video shots of our project.
Nice and quiet. You said the TMC is way quiet compared to
so quiet. It's very nice and smooth.
I think in your video it'd be cool if you highlighted the difference so people know like what is the sound difference.
Yeah, it could do that. Yeah, it's very loud.
I know, but it's like people don't realize that. I'm like, hey, I'm going to stop this thing that everybody wants, but by the way, there's a downside.
Okay, that's what you mean.
Kooky.
Yeah. Okay, I'll give that a shot. It's going to be a collab project, of course, with Liz Clark. She's going to do the CircuitPython code for it. Right now, it's just kind of rotating and going back and forth, but we want to do like a cool little interface on this OLED so that we can control the speed and the direction using the rotary encoder with Stemma QT. So that's forthcoming.
Sweet.
All right. And folks, you can tune in every Wednesday for 3D Hangouts to learn about this and more. Thank you so much, Doug.
I love that smooth motion. Beautiful. All right. Thank you.
All right. Next up is Jeff, and then we'll go to CGrover. Jeff, what you got going on this week?
Hello. I mean, we could talk about my pour-over coffee recipe based on what you were saying with JP, but I should probably show you the electronics instead.
Well, how about both? That's good.
Yeah.
Maybe next time. So I've been working on the RGB matrix stuff. This is a Pi 5, which you can't see. That's the back of it. This is a Pi 5, and we're now able to drive the RGB matrices with it using very simple Python code. And I put together a program that goes frame by frame through the permissively licensed Big Buck Bunny animation from Blender. And I don't know. I just want to say it looks good. So this is the 32p version of it.
Are you using any gamma correction on this?
So if you I wrote code for gamma correction and it was wrong, but it was wrong synergistically with another bug in the 10-bit code. So right now I'm in the midst of trying to correct that, and you might see a few little quirks here and there in the very brightest colors because of that. But the code is converting an 8-bit RGB into a 10-bit value. Here's what it is ideally going to do. Convert the 8-bit value into a 10-bit value using a gamma lookup table, and then blit all 10 of those bit planes. But it's buggy right now, so it's getting it wrong. So you're not actually benefiting from the gamma correction here. Although something in my pipeline, I mean, I don't know exactly what I did to convert these images. There may have been some gamma correction there.
I mean, it looks really, I'm saying it looks really good. It's not, it doesn't have, it, even that it's now we're seeing it, I'm seeing it through a camera, through a, monitor, through an LED matrix, through it's like there's a lot of layers of digital conversion here.
Mm-hmm.
What's the frame rate you're getting?
So I think this is doing about, I think the refresh rate of the panel is 120 hertz, give or take.
Yeah.
But this is also like decoding the PNG image for each frame. And so I think that's pulling it down somewhat. but fast. The answer is it's pretty fast. I'm really satisfied with it.
Okay. Sweet.
Outstanding.
Yeah, it's cool. So this
Awesome.
is
People
up
love this.
on PyPI now, and you can download it and install it on your Pi 5. You have to convert Big Buck Bunny yourself. I didn't include that in our Git repo.
I think though, once we get that code working now, what there is a way that you can take the frame buffer of the HDMI display. Because we use this in FB2CP. Like you could read the HDMI frame buffer, scale it down, and display it. So it's like mirroring whatever your display is.
Yeah,
and that's a cheap way of like turning. It's like if it displays on HDMI, it displays onto the
right. Yeah, if somebody can point me how to grab that data either in C++ or Python, then I think we can make it work. Because this just says, it's like I've got an array of memory somewhere with pixels in it, and I need to convert them. So it's very close. Just I don't know how to get those from the HDMI or from Wayland or from any of those.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, to be honest, I don't know if Wayland is effective, but if you could look for FB2CP, I think is
okay.
So it's frame buffer FB2CP, which is I think copy it.
Okay.
We use it on the PyTFT displays, and that's how we display the HDMI. It's like we don't have like a Wayland plugin. What we do is like whatever's on the HDMI, we just copy that frame buffer directly. Okay. And so you look at if you look at any of the PyTFT tutorials, it tells you like, here's how you install this. And it's in C. I did write a version in Python, which is basically like, I just run, the memory map command in Python to grab the frame. You can do it in Python. It's not that much. On the Pi 5, it's probably not that much slower, but because we originally wrote this on the original Pi 1, we had to write it in C for it to be like any reasonable speed. But it does work quite well. It's very dumb, but it works great. It's just like, okay, Linux, what do you think is on the monitor?
Well, I mean, I know that's kind of what they do on some of these real panels, because every once in a while you'll see the Windows blue screen on one, and I'm like, you're just grabbing what would be going to a monitor here.
It's actually, it's actually HDMI input.
Okay.
It's HDMI input capture to monitor, which is funny because you could put an HDMI capture dongle, HDMI to USB on a Raspberry Pi and like have it do that. Because it would just be a camera. Yeah. Whatever the camera displays, you would just show. So that'd be a cheap way. Maybe
that would be cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Jeff, for coming by. Excellent demo.
I will drop some links to this in the Discord, but for now, good night, good evening.
Good night, good evening. Thank you very much, Jeff. And good work with that. It looks awesome.
Very cool. All right. Next up, CGrover, one of my favorite people. Excellent musician and wonderful tutorials and all the things. How are you doing?
Hi, what are you up to?
Hey, I'm doing wonderful. I'm concerned about California, and I want to send my best to all the folks there. My son lives down in that area too, so we got family there, and we're just very concerned and holding out a lot of hope for them.
Everybody knows someone, and what we'll do is as soon as there's things that we can be helpful for, we'll get the word out at Adafruit and more. But I know folks are still kind of on the sidelines trying to figure out when is it okay to start doing stuff, but the fires are still going. So we'll use our megaphone the best we can, and if there's anything you hear, let us know and we'll get the word out.
I will do that, and I certainly appreciate everything you guys do when we have these natural disasters. That you guys, Adafruit, really steps up to those.
We try.
I appreciate that. So
what did Mr. Rogers say? Look for the helpers. That's what we try to do.
We know where they are.
All right, what you got going on this week?
I've got two things, and it's very appropriate that Jeff Epler was just ahead of me, because I finally put a case on a calculator that was inspired by one of his. This is my HP calculator emulator, nice. And I put a bent plexiglass case on it.
Yeah.
Of course, it's reverse Polish and beep, 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 and it does all of its stuff. And it emulates the HP 35, including the errors that the HP 35 had.
Nice.
And you can actually program in the early errors versus the fixed errors that they had later on.
Cool.
Anyway, that was a fun project to do, and I just finally woke it up and put a case on it. But
almost looks like a tricorder. Good work.
Yeah. Well, it has an ESP32S3 in it, so you could plug in some sensors and
you just need LCARS interface and you're set.
LCARS interface. Now it's funny you would say that. That's my second project.
Oh, good.
By the way, the calculator is out on the playground. There's a note that talks about that, and so all the code is out there and all that kind of stuff. I may put the technique for bending plexiglass out there because I do all that by hand. I don't have a laser cutter or 3D printer, so I do everything with hand tools, and so I'll put some retro, hand tool stuff out there.
That'll be nice.
Second project though is this weather station I've been working on since 2017, and it started out by wanting to monitor corrosion in the garage. And here's one of the first, not the absolute first, but one of the first interfaces that I used to monitor corrosion in the garage, which is my workshop, which is separate from the house. And so I was running out there and checking temperature. And, in the winter, we get corrosion around here, even though we live in the desert of Washington State. So I set up a monitor like this that gives me, you can see the green indicator on there. It says everything's okay out there right now. And it uses Adafruit IO and communicates with that to store the information from the garage and to retrieve it and put it on the display and so forth. And the LCARS interface was something Dave Aspels and John Park were playing with, and I just adapted it for this. So that was the first thing that I did, was come up with a display for corrosion out in the garage. Second thing I did is that I took one of John Park's projects and made a weather station that looked at openweathermap.org. And since they started charging for their service, you need a credit card for their free service. I decided to switch over to Adafruit's AIO Plus, where we have an Apple Weather Kit data source that we can use, and that's what this one is running against. But then I started running into problems with PyPortals and not having enough information or not having enough memory to store the JSON files. And I decided to come up with a different kind of a scheme that also uses an LCARS. It's a little bit more complicated than the first one I did, but this is an ESP32S3 with a capacitive touch screen on it. I'm not using capacitive touch yet, but version 2. And this also, you can see the colors there. This is using AIO Plus as well, and all the feeds that I'm sending up to it, including the weather feeds from, even the local weather feeds are going up to AIO Plus. So I've got the workshop feeds and the weather feeds going up there, and I'm retrieving all of that. It's working great. I've got all of these devices running at the same time here. I've got 5 devices running, and I'm using the new throttling stuff that Tyeth and Brent put into AIO. So I'm sending and retrieving data from AIO all the time, back and forth. I'm not having any failures or pauses because of that. And their throttling stuff just is working perfectly.
Okay.
Pretty thrilled with. So all of this is explained in a couple of articles that I wrote for Playground. The latest one that covers this stuff that I just showed is version 2 of the weather architecture I put together. And then Paul Cutler invited me to talk on the CircuitPython show I think it's coming out on the 27th of this month. And I go into great detail and probably will bore the heck out of most people, but I cover all of the history behind the corrosion monitors, the weather station stuff, and all that.
Outstanding. I listened to the podcast when I'm doing laundry, so I'll put it on.
I love Paul's podcast. And,
it's great.
And being part of that is just exciting. It's just
a good interviewer. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing this. This is a really good example of what you can do with Adafruit IO Plus and some of the hardware, and of course, putting in an awesome LCARS interface.
Oh, you're welcome. And it helps to be obsessed with something for 8 years.
Yeah, it's all good. Well, they're not. They're always making weather, so
I'm counting on that. So all right.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody. We're here every single week, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. It's show and tell. Come by, show and share your projects and more. We'll see everybody next week. Coming up is Ask an Engineer.
All right.
See you later.
See you in just a minute.